Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages, this is Jesse with the Common Nerd, and things have been going wild over there in the Warhammer 40k universe since the announcement of female Custodes being part of canon, and of course having Games Workshop introduce them into a television show. Well, we thought after all of the backlash, there was some stuff that was going on. There were some rumors going around out there saying that maybe there wasn't some stuff that wasn't actually confirmed because of this new actual history and lore of Warhammer 40k, like this official guidebook didn't reference them at all. Reference to Custodes is strictly male. Well, according to some rumored leaks out there, boys and girls, there might actually be Games Workshop completely and totally doubling down on the female Custodes thing going forward, because there turns out there might be a model coming as well, and this could end up going wild, boys and girls, because if this ends up all being true, the fan backlash is going to be huge as it has continued to go on with this, because as one of my friendly friends out there in the chat pointed out before we even started recording this video, the female Custodes is heresy in the highest level. And you know what? You might be okay with them introducing these female Custodes and all of that kind of stuff out there, but you cannot deny that it breaks the traditional canon and all of the references that we had seen throughout the decades of Custodes being strictly male out there, boys and girls. And I promise you, this is just their first stepping stone towards making female Space Marines. It is going to come if the backlash from the fans out there does not drive this idea right down into the ground. But I guarantee you already, boys and girls, if all of this rumor stuff ends up being true, I can promise you that the model out there for these female Custodes will be the lowest selling model of all time, just like it was with the Custodes Codex, where they inserted all of this complete and total nonsense retcon. And well, boys and girls, we've got even more information that might indeed be confirming that Games Workshop is going to completely and totally double down on all of this craziness going forward. So we've got the whole story for you here, as well as all the kind of rumor stuff that was going on, is why people thought that the female Custodes was no longer going to be canon going forward, and of course what the author's response was as well. But before we do, if you do enjoy our content, hit that like button, share with all your friends, and subscribe or follow if you have not already, boys and girls, because we are grinding, we are growing. We have just crossed 1,500. We're on our way to 1,600, and I could not do that without every single one of you. Also, leave us a comment in the section down below. Are you one of those fans out there of Games Workshop that's totally okay with all this female Custodes stuff and the female Space Marines that are going to come afterwards? Or are you a staunch purist out there who believes that Games Workshop should not be going with this kind of nonsense retcon canon? And honestly, I think probably the biggest offense out of all of this was for them literally to talk down the official Games Workshop Twitter account, to talk down to fans and go, there's always been female Custodes. This isn't a retcon. Well, I hate to tell you, we've got decades of books and lore that say the exact opposite. But hey, let us know how you feel about all of this in the comment section down below. And if you'd like to support the channel, please check out the links in the description as well. So from fandompulse.substack, alleged Games Workshop email reveals company doubling down on female Adeptus Custodes with planned miniature for the Horus Heresy 3.0. Oh, dun dun dun. Isn't that just exactly what you want from your characters in a video game universe? Isn't that just the strong female representation everyone loves to see? No? Yeah, didn't think so. An alleged email, an accidental email from Games Workshop, seems to confirm female Adeptus Custodes miniatures are coming in 2025, and a double down on the feminization of Warhammer 40,000. This week, the Warhammer 40,000 community started buzzing that perhaps Games Workshop might be walking back their change of the lore to where there are female Adeptus Custodes when the original works always stated they were male. Absolutely, over and over. This occurred after a screenshot of Warhammer 40,000, the Ultimate Guide, was shared by X by Wokehammer Els, which states, as a legion of exceptional individuals, the Adeptus Custodes are less regimented than other Imperial forces, with promotion based entirely on merit. Isn't that nice to hear? The Captain General leads, aided by a group of 10 tribunes. Below the tribunate, commanders of individual forces are known as shield captains. Armies or shield hosts are formed from all across all 5 orders. Dozens of other sub-organizations, brotherhoods, and grouping run through the orders such as the Redacted Wardens, Shadow Keepers, or Solar Watch. Notice they say Brotherhood. There we go. And that's not the only one. Another excerpt states, as custodians accumulate victories, they are awarded a name to commemorate each one, though these are kept secret from those outside the Legion. And in public, a custodian will use the name granted to him upon his investiture, right? So this is where all of this comes from. However, the writer of the book, Gav Thorpe, was asked about the situation on Blue Sky, because of course he's over there on Blue Sky, and he quickly squashed any notion about this being a reversal of Games Workshop pushing for the female Custodes. So Hoodguard asks here, just confirming because of all the ruckus with the DK book, female Custodes are still a part of Warhammer, correct? Gav Thorpe responds, yes, of course they are. Not every miniature is included, and I don't recall exactly, but we may have already finished that section when the series miniature went public. DK didn't have access to the pre-release pics. So boys and girls, there you have it, right from the author himself. No, female custodians have not been replaced. They are still very much part of the lore, and like I said, he's on Blue Sky, so what else did you expect him to say? This fueled internet speculation that female custodians miniatures were in the works, something that has not been done yet despite the change in the 10th edition lore, books to include them, as well as showing a one in the animated short The Tithe. Further fueling the rumors, a Warhammer 40k fan account, Cryptid Miniatures on X, posted, you do know they released a show about it, and they have an entire release coming from the female custodians next year for Horus Heresy 3.0 even. Oh, really? Well, that's new for all of us, but yeah, obviously we knew about the show. When questioned about this assertion, the account posted what he claims to be a portion of a mistake email from Games Workshop detailing a planned release for June 2025, which states, Horus Heresy 3.0 campaign. The introduction of a female Custodes Tribune to lead a specialized contingent of the Legio Custodes. Of course she is. She's going to be the leader. She's going to be the bestest, wonderfulest, most fastest ever. Because that's always the way it is with these female characters. Now, isn't it, boys and girls? Because honestly, we all love a good, strong female heroine out there. I mean, we love Ripley. People love Tomb Raider with Lara Croft and all that kind of stuff. But you have to have them written properly. They have to still go through the hero's journey. So instead of seeing that happen, instead of seeing these Legio Custodes, these female Legio Custodes going out there and doing all of this kind of stuff and like going through the trials and going through the tribulations and maybe writing a book about her coming up through the trials and being able to surpass everybody and be able to do really well, you know, let's see him actually overcome some kind of difficulty. But of course not. They're just going to make her the leader right away, boys and girls, because that's how it always goes with this nonsense. That's why people are so sick and tired of whenever you see a female lead in like an action movie or something like that, everybody just rolls their eyes, because we saw what happened with Captain Marvel. It's literally like it's the worst written possible kind of character description and the worst. There's literally like no hero's arc in it whatsoever, no hero's journey whatsoever. They literally just are the bestest, fastest right from the very get-go. So of course this would line up with the exact same kind of pandering nonsense we have seen in the past. So the possibility of portraying a Custodes Tribune who defies expectations, showing that the Empire's elite defenders might be more, and that's all we get. That's all we get. It literally cuts right out of there, boys and girls. And honestly, it's one of them situations where, like, the female custodian thing, I talked about this in one of my earlier videos when we first covered these things. If you wanted to actually do it properly, this is not how you do it, right? If you want to retcon your lore, then you write it into a book. You know, you use some kind of excuse to why we haven't seen female custodians the entire time, right? You go to some planet, you find a lost ark, you find a, you find lost custodians. Maybe they're stuck in stasis, right? But they've been there since the very beginning. But that's why we've never seen them. The Emperor locked them away for whatever reason. And now, because things are absolutely going sideways, you bring them in. Instead, they're forcing them into Horus Heresy, boys and girls. They're putting them all the way back in the timeline for all of that kind of stuff for Warhammer 40k. Oh, color a shock there, because that's how, of course, they want to do it. Just a forced insert instead of something that actually makes sense. And that's the real problem with all of this kind of stuff. It's a forced insert. It is not something that is being done properly. And then, of course, you had the Games Workshop count to literally talk that, well, the female custodians have always been there. No, they fucking haven't, okay? We know this. We can verify this. All the books out there still exist. All the screenshots still exist. We know for a fact you are blowing smoke up our asses, and the fans aren't going to take it. You could have done this properly, but instead you decided to do a forced insert because it's just virtue signaling nonsense, capitulating to the acolytes of the cult out there like we have seen so many times out there. Don't believe me? Hey, ask Disney Star Wars what they did to our dear sweet black character when they put the poster out there in China. Oh, that's right. They shrunk him. Oh, all your LGBTQ nonsense? Yeah, guess what? It's just Pandu virtually signaling as well, because Disney has no problem whatsoever editing that stuff out to make sure they get their movies in the Middle East. This is nonsense garbage. This is pandering is all it ever is. And for some reason, if you feel represented by this kind of stray, crazy ass woke Custodes female nonsense garbage, then by all means have at it. But the rest of us out there are not going to put up with this stuff. Nobody's going to be buying these. Nobody's going to be buying these models. Nobody's going to be out there selling, making sure these things go up in high, crazy sales. It's simply not going to happen. It is going to flop just like so many other things that the Games Workshop has tried in the past. And you know what the best part is? And whether or not this is going to be true with this whole female custodian woke garbage nonsense as well, at the end of the day, we know that if miniatures don't sell, Games Workshop will not expand on the lore, and you won't see them come back in any way, shape, or form. So yes, if this rumor ends up being true, we might get a Horus Heresy 3.0 version of female Custodes. What do you want to bet it'll be the last time you ever see that model? Because it's not going to sell. It's not going to work. The mainstream audiences, everybody out there has woken up to all of your nonsense, BS, virtue signaling, and pandering to the acolytes of the cult that all of these major corporations have been doing for decades. And guess what? It falls flat every single time you try it. Don't believe me? Look at Disney's box office for the last few years. Look at Hollywood in general, what they've done. Look at the video game industry. How'd that work out for Dragon Age Veilguard, boys and girls? Don't tell me I'm being crazy. Don't believe, it's Games Workshop. They're never going to be taken over by the woke cult. No. Why? What makes them so special? Tell me in the comment section down below what makes Games Workshop so fucking special that you don't think they're going to be infected by the acolytes of the cult and see the exact same kind of quality of garbage crap that we have seen from everybody else that has pandered to the cult out there. By the way, how has that worked out for any other industry that's done this? Yes, it's fallen flat. We have seen studio after studio close down in the video game industry. We have seen companies go bankrupt. Ubisoft is probably not going to be a company next year because they decided to pander to the woke cult. How do you think that's going to work out for the Games Workshop, boys and girls? History doesn't just repeat itself, it also rhymes. So several fans question the authenticity of this email through Crypto Miniatures, maintains it's correct, and that there are about 30 more items listed in the email from Games Workshop as plans for the upcoming release throughout 2025. It says, just an FYI, Custodes aren't going away at all. In fact, Games Workshop is going to be doubling down after the 3.0 releases of Horus Heresy with more Custodes updates and moving everything to plastic from resin. Custodes 3.0 Tribune is rumored to have a female head option per accidental email. So there it is, boys and girls, the female head. I wonder, I would really love to hear what, I know Henry Cavill is never going to speak out on this, any of this kind of stuff because of his works, his deals with Amazon and Games Workshop and stuff like that, but considering Custodes are his favorite, right, they are his army, it'd make me really, I'd love to be able to have an honest conversation with him about how he feels about this, because I guarantee you he thinks this is just as stupid as everybody else out there, everybody that has any kind of common sense in their brain whatsoever. So he says, right there, Fandom Pulse reached out to Crypto Miniatures asking if there's further confirmation could be given. And he maintains the screenshot is very real and that Games Workshop is investigating the incident as to how it got out. Because of course they do. They don't want this kind of stuff leaked out because they know the backlash they are going to get. They got the backlash when the screenshots from the Custodes stuff went leaked out over there. They're going to get backlash over this as well. And it's rightly deserved. If you are a fan of Warhammer 40K out there, if you are a fan of anything that Games Workshop does, and you won't want this infection, this acolytes of the cult infecting and destroying your favorite franchise out there, then boys and girls, you have to speak up. You have to make your voices heard. Send them emails, write them letters. Does anybody even do that anymore? Does anybody even send emails anymore? Get on their butts on social media and let them know that you don't want any part of this garbage, this retcon nonsense where they try to claim that it's always been like that. No, it fucking hasn't, and we all know better. Stop blowing smoke up our ass. It's not going to work. He provided more information about the supposed Horus Heresy 3.0 campaign. However, stating dark mechanicisms will be the big bad of this iteration. So I'm assuming he's talking about the dark mechanicus. And of course, that's what we'll end up finding out. So obviously, as of right now, it's all just rumor. It's all just speculation. But boys and girls, why wouldn't they do this? We know Games Workshop has been leading in this direction for quite a while. Don't believe me? Read some of their books, boys and girls. What are a lot of the female, you've got so many female generals and so many female captains and lieutenants and all this kind of stuff out there running all of these squads. Why wouldn't they continue to double down and go forward with this kind of nonsense? If they're doing it in the lore, why wouldn't they do it in plastic models? This completely and totally makes sense, and I cannot wait to see what happens when all of this turns out to end up being true. I pray it's not, but we all know how a lot of this stuff is gone, boys and girls. We have watched this happen to company after company after franchise after franchise. They get infected by this woke cult out there. Well, it's just diverse. Don't you want to be diverse? Don't you want to be inclusive? Don't you have more people come in and play your games? Except what happens is they use that as their tagline. They use it as their excuse. Oh, it's going to get you more money. money. It's going to make you more money. Yeah, how has that worked out for the video game industry, and how has that worked out for Hollywood? What makes you think it's going to be any different with tabletop miniatures, boys and girls? It's not. And people pay their hard-earned money. You pay a lot of money to buy stuff from Games Workshop. I know I've got 2 boxes of stuff sitting under here right underneath my desk that was not cheap in any way, shape, or form, boys and girls. This is an expensive hobby that a lot of people completely and totally avoid, not only because of the price, but because of how deep the lore is on this as well. I, for one, love the Warhammer 40K universe. I love the lore. I burned through almost every Caiaphas Cain book that is out there. I think I've only got like one and a half more to go before I finish the entire series, and can't wait for the next one out there, because this is what the fans want. This is what they actually enjoy. But unfortunately, we know what happens. Even if you don't have a problem with the female Custodes being a part of Warhammer 40K, look at any other industry that's done this. It's not just the female representation that's the problem. The female representation is the first red flag, because what comes after that words? Well, broken and buggy games, really bad storytelling, and boring garbage lore that nobody wants any part of. We have seen this go down the hill over and over again. It happened to Star Wars. It's happened to Disney, Marvel. It's happened to Pixar. It happened to a lot of these corporations out there. It's happened to almost the entire video game industry out there with AAA games. What makes you think it's not going to go the exact same thing with Games Workshop? I am trying to warn you. I am trying to let you know to make your voices heard now and put a stop to this, because I have seen this happen to too many other fandoms out there and too many other wonderful things. Rings of Power, anybody, it destroys, it devastates. It is nothing more than absolute evil, because as we know from our dear sweet J.R.R. Tolkien out there, and we know it's a little bit of a paraphrase, but evil cannot create. It only corrupts and destroys. And that's exactly what is going to happen to Warhammer 40K if the fans don't make their voices heard. Don't believe me? Well, guess what? And I probably got some oceanfront property in Arizona to sell you, because, boys and girls, history doesn't just repeat itself, it also rhymes. And we know the go woke, go broke phrase exists for a reason. Games Workshop, make the smart move and get rid of this nonsense. But honestly, at this point, it's probably too little, too late for you.